We're now on to the second fundamental choice that comprises entrepreneurial strategy, and that is to choose your technology. The question we've got to ask is, it's fundamentally about how do we create value, and what technology gets used to underpin that value. Now, it's very important to realize that it is often the case that there's some technological underpinning for the entire idea of the venture, such as you are going to apply machine learning to something, or you are going to be online. That's already built into the core idea. But above and beyond that are other technological choices, often centered around how you might deliver a product to customers, or whether you might be mobile first or something else. Those choices are ones that we're talking about here. So the question that you have to think about when you're choosing a technology is not just what it can do today, but what it can do in the future. Your startup is not going to be fully formed out of the gate. It's going to evolve over time. And moreover, various technologies that might be part of it will have to grow with the company. The question is, and it'll be a fundamental one, is whether you build on an existing technology or maybe you try a trajectory or something else that is new. And there are trade-offs in those decisions. So the question is that we're going to answer today, or try to answer today, how can I choose my technology and choose a technological strategy to advance my technological trajectory to advance my entrepreneurial strategy? Of course, there's a part of it that what you're dealing with here, with these technology choices, is not actually inventing something new. That's hopefully your core idea. What you're doing is you're taking advantage of technologies that are out there and you're applying them to your business. And so this William Gibson quote is famous of that, is the future is already here. It's not very evenly distributed. What he means is that there are technologies out there, they just haven't been applied to all their domains. And that is something that your venture may well be doing. To give you an example of this, of a choice of technology that's fundamental, there was a time, a decade or so ago, that Elon Musk and his cousins were driving to Burning Man, and they had an idea to create a efficient or renewable energy business. And they debated in the car ride whether to use solar power or wind power to do that. Now, the reason I bring that up is it seems funny that these things seem so vastly different. But really what they were saying is we want to be in the business of making it easy for consumers and households to use renewable energy. And that's a tough call because currently everybody's wired to an electricity grid. And so being able to have simple processes, they thought was the barrier to the adoption of these things. So they had ideas of both solar and wind power, and there were some trade-offs between them. And what this illustrates, they obviously ended up choosing solar power and formed a company called Solar City that offered a turnkey approach to putting on solar panels on houses. This company just recently was acquired by Tesla and now is part of that entire makeup. But the interesting part about it was quite a commitment. If you chose solar, you'll go to VCs and other people and say solar is the future, and you'll make that case. If it turns out to be wrong, it's going to be hard for you, and I mean by you individually, to go back and say, I was wrong, can you give me money for wind instead? That's a tough call. This illustrates why technology choices, because they require a lot of resources, also mean carry along with them certain commitments. And you may recall that we discussed that when you are choosing amongst alternative entrepreneurial strategies, you have to take into account whether a choice in one direction is going to foreclose other opportunities. With technology, that can often be the case. Now, one of the key issues with technology is forecast. When is it going to work? So what I have shown you here is an early self-driving car. As you can see, it looks a bit bolted together. It also wasn't very good. Let me play you a video.
Virginia Tech's Cliff. See you, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen from Caltech. See you. University of Louisiana Lafayette's Rachel Clark. And off we go with Paramax, ladies and gentlemen. 32,000 pound, 6-wheel military vehicle. This is a wire demonstration. And off we go. Good try, guys.
That was 2004. So could you have predicted that in just 13 years we would actually have at least semi-self-driving cars on the road? I think that would be quite a stretch. Now, clearly, what happened next time, and by next time I mean 10 or 11 years later, was something like this. We had Google come in, and with self-driving cars, been on the road now for 5-6 years. But even the traditional car makers are doing the same thing now. For instance, you have this by Mercedes. They believe they're close.
We wanted to find out what it takes to make a vehicle move itself autonomously in regular traffic. So we said, let's go and check it out. On about 100 kilometers of country and city roads, with technology that is actually not that far away from what's in the S-Class already today. We did not just pick any route, but a very special one. The route where Bertie-Benz made history 125 years ago with the world's first overland drive.
The challenges were enormous. From the smallest streets and little villages to big cities, we had everything.
Common navigation systems are not precise enough. We needed a localization that can give us exact position on a centimeter base. With cameras, we matched the surrounding with data in our map 10 times a second.
Each traffic light has to be correctly identified under all weather and lighting conditions.
The sensor systems not only have to identify all the objects, they have to predict their movement.
We must teach the vehicle to take the right decisions in all situations, reliable and within fractions of a second.
course, it's a research project and it's still a long way to serial production, but with this project we definitely took a big step forward.
It's impressive. We still don't have self-driving cars, at least as I record this video, but there's a sense in which the whole enterprise feels far closer than it was in 2004. One of the ways that people like to conceptualize this sort of trajectory is not only that the technology improves, but we get more certain over time as to what a technology might do. And you can see here, with regard to robotics, how someone's mapped out this cone of uncertainty. In the consumer market, we had products like Lego's Mindstorms, and then we had the Roomba, and Sony Aibo. It was a little dog that I used to have one, and it was retired, but it never really worked that well. But it cost a lot of money, so it's good. The Roomba actually had evolved, and circa 2007 and certainly today is a common household item, and therefore from 2007 onwards you might have seen that we might have had more robots occur and stuff like that. Now it's interesting, they say that the Steve Jobs of robots would have arisen around 2011. If that has happened, I'm not sure who that is. But this is the interesting way that this trajectory in the cone of uncertainty is working. As you progress, you learn more about the technologies and you see more about what the potential applications are. And that's part of a technology trajectory there. So the key question is, how can you go beyond broad speculations, which we've just shown are an issue, and have a meaningful forecast of how fast particular technologies are likely to evolve? The answer is we actually have a tool. The pattern was noticed by this man, Richard Foster, in a book called Innovation, the Attacker's Dilemma. Attacker's Advantage. They're not all dilemmas. The technology S-curve. It's like the market S-curve in that it's an S given by this logistic function that was familiar there. But it has different things on the axes. On the x-axis is a measure of input, effort, resources, or investment. On the y-axis is a measure of performance. Might be a metric or might be a host of metrics. And so it shows that when you get a technology for the first time, eking out performance improvements takes a lot of effort. Then comes a time when things start to fall together. Often that is associated with what's called a dominant design. You suddenly start to realize what a technology should look at. Want to know what a dominant design is? This is a dominant design. Back in 2007, no one knew what smartphones should look like. Steve Jobs then invented it. Who knows what I've shown there? Once you do that, effort has high returns in terms of performance improvements until you reach some technological limit. Now, as with the market S-curve, we don't know when the takeoff's going to be, and we don't know what the limits are for any given technology. But we do have some inklings as to what might drive those things.